Okay, so a very good evening. Uh, Today we will be discussing on urbanization, the challenges we are going to face specifically in Odisha cities, maybe next 10 or 20 years. So we have a guest with us who is a distinguished academician and researcher in this field, Professor Jagabandhu Panda. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
To our GeoIntellect Geospatial Lab. Professor Panda, who was experienced in the atmospheric science and mostly looking into the process of urbanizations or the problems which the city are going to face, who is right now a professor in Earth Atmospheric Science Department, NIT Raulkela, and he works with lot of multidisciplinary tools and techniques. So, sir, the first question, I think we should understand what is urbanization. What is the process of urbanization in Odisha? How you think? So, how it is going to change maybe in next 20 years?
Okay, so basically urbanization by definition, if we go by definition, so it is about population migration in search of quality of life, or say for example for employment, for education, for better living, healthcare facilities, etc. So when the population is migrating to cities, the cities will grow. That is what we basically term as urbanization. As far as Odisha is concerned, so we have urban areas in Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, Puri region, and there is one sort of urbanization in the western part where basically Raurkela, Jharsuguda, Sambalpur, that belt is there. So, and whenever we are talking about urbanization, we can also include the industrialization here, because eventually around the cities you have some industry areas. And so in that sense, if we look into the growth, obviously we can expect in Odisha there will be something like 20 to 30% growth in urbanization in next 10 to 15 years. This is what we can expect, especially by 2035 or 40, there should be more than 25% growth in urbanization because of so many infrastructural developments coming up in Odisha in different places. Yeah.
Okay, so if I see like right now the urban population is more or less 17%, maybe we are targeting 40%.
40%, right.
So let's say about what Odisha is targeting like Vikasit Odisha 2036 or Vikasit India, you can say Vikasit Bharat 2047. So my question is, what are the key hydrometeorological challenges will this city is going to face maybe 2036, and which urban centers you can say are most vulnerable in future and why?
Okay, so basically in general urban areas are vulnerable towards flash floods, that is basically hydrometeorological aspects, and if you look into like the drainage system that we have, that may not be sufficient to drain out the rainwater that we get, because due to different type of urban growth, and accordingly there will be heavy rainfall occurrences. In any case, the changing climate scenario is going to increase the extreme weather events, And when we have higher convection in urban centers because of the urbanization, it is going to have the higher floods, higher rainfall amount around the urban centers. So the location may differ, but aided by moisture, there will be definitely heavy rainfall events. So which will result in flash floods, and that is going to impact us heavily for traffic congestion, and then for the people daily life, basically in the monsoon season primarily. And we can expect that because in summer or pre-monsoon season, we may get flash floods, but that may not last for a long time. But in case of monsoon, we can get more rainfall, basically in terms of heavy rainfall events. But if you look into the vulnerability aspect or which areas are going to be impacted, we can expect the eastern side primarily because the growth rate here is faster compared to the western side of Odisha. So, and drainage system is not taken care of in a very nice manner that we see in some of the bigger cities, like say for example, I will give the example of Singapore. It's a best example of drainage system, I would say, because I stayed there for quite some time, and then I saw the drainage system is excellent in terms of, like, even if they have heavy rainfall, so that that is within a few minutes it goes away. Now at that time it was supposed to be, but the current scenario I don't know. But of course, if you have a good drainage system, that will help as far as hydrometeorological scenarios are concerned. So I would say Bhubaneswar is vulnerable, particularly if you want to say, because Bhubaneswar has developed drastically over the years, and so much of infrastructures are there in Bhubaneswar. But besides that hydrometeorological aspects, urban areas are not only vulnerable to that. Urban areas actually are vulnerable to other aspects as well. For example, heat. For instance, in the western side, those areas, they may not be vulnerable to flash floods. They are more vulnerable to heat, basically. So you can say, if you have a heat wave scenario, in any case, if the urban area will result in UHI, urban heat island. So if we have a heat wave scenario, that they may play hand in hand, and that will probably impact the health scenarios of the residents. That is basically for example, heat strokes, etc., can be an issue for western part. And the same thing can happen in the eastern part as well during the pre-monsoon and summer season. But whenever you have flash floods and the rainfall remains for a long time, that can also generate some health issues like, say, dengue, malaria. So those type of things may be there. For example, recent past, there was in Bangalore such type of scenarios we saw. So such things can happen in Bhubaneswar area any point of time. So if you take such a hydrometeorological aspect, then the common problem that we are going to face also, that is basically the what is that called, pollution. And this pollution aspect, like say you have vehicular pollution and you have industrial pollution. Then third contributor is your transported pollutants. So basically, if you have the research says, basically if you have PM 2.5 more in the atmosphere, so that can actually generate, that can be associated with the mortalities or risk, basically, and generate because of the respiratory problems. So respiratory issues will be there, and that may enhance further. So if we can take care of such aspects, then our urban living could be really qualitative. Otherwise, it's actually not going to be so pleasant.
Yeah, like if you see one side, you are talking about quality of life or the services the urban centers are providing. That's why people are moving towards cities.
Correct.
So as you said, you compare Bhubaneswar with Singapore. But the question is these problems are natural? Let's say climate change. If you see the pre-monsoon, let's say, so you have, there is a change in the sea breeze and land breeze. So specifically, then what will happen if more moisture from Bay of Bengal is coming to these cities? So then what will happen? So either you will have lightning, or you will have heavy rainfall, or you can have a situation which happened in Karanjia, maybe nor'wester, tornado-like conditions, where you don't have response time. So whenever, so what I am trying to say, like, what are the area of research if somebody from art sciences, geography, geology, so if they are looking for 2036, so what are the area which they should look into, which has a potential to do some research? I always think research is some kind of problem you identify, like let's say Bhubaneswar. So you say flash flood or drainage systems or congestions kind of thing. There are a lot of other issues also. So which are the potential area a researcher should look into? And like just you think not from the perspective of IIT or NIT, just think of university like Fakhriman University or small university where you don't have high computing facility.
Correct.
So what are the data sources? So how they should move? How they should work with model and machine learning, maybe doing certain prediction, but still keep in the mind like response time. So we usually give example of cyclone because this is a big event, so monitor from different perspective. You have enough models for that, and also you have a 2 to 3 days response time, so you can go for evaluation.
Correct.
But for these cases you cannot go. So just tell us. Because this will be mostly for the researchers, so how to move it, how to give some output in terms of maybe publications, in terms of some product decision system which the government can take, or some societal systems like apps or policy changes. And most of these extreme events require a long-term planning rather than reactive or that response time you cannot do nothing.
Correct. So if I have to take into consideration your concern, it is basically you are talking about like how this urbanization is interacting with your extreme weather scenario, right? So because that these days government is also offering such type of specialized funding from Ministry of Earth Sciences and DEST or ANRF now. So one can get funding from these agencies, and also Odisha government is offering these days a sufficient amount of money through Odisha DST, I believe. So that is actually going to help us to conduct the research works irrespective of whether it is IIT, NIT or university, it does not matter. Then second aspect is like if you look into the limited resources, for example, suppose we become realistic and consider the limited resources. See, there are multiple things. The brain is not limited to the university or IIT or NIT. It is all about like how you look at the problem. Say for instance, in foreign countries, we have a prolonged data set for urban areas. First of all, when you are looking at the urban areas, we can look into horizontally and then vertically, because an urban area can grow both directions. Horizontal growth can be looked into land use land cover changes. So, say for example, if you have land use land cover changes, that is urban area, how it is growing. That means where the urban area is located, first thing. Second thing is that how much, and third thing is that what are different subcategories of urban areas. So, within the urban area itself, you can have industrial or commercial area, you can have some residence areas where there will be multi-story buildings and number of multi-story buildings at a particular location, which will be like a that is called high residential areas. And then you can have also low residential areas where you can have building height will be low and there could be some sufficient space between the two rows wherever the residence areas are located. So, such type of things will be there in urban areas. That means you can have three subcategories like high residential, low residential, and then industrial or commercial areas, both industry as well as commercial. Industry, I mean there could be hardware industry, there could be software industry, where the anthropogenic heat will be very high, for example, because there will be more people working during the official hours and there will be more emissions from those industries. So, those type of heat will be high from there. So, that is called anthropogenic activity induced heating. So, that is called anthropogenic heat basically. So, those areas will be very high heat. Then if you have high residential areas, that means in a smaller portion of the city, you will have more people living in, more people. So, that means there will be anthropogenic heating, but it will be of moderate amount. That means less than that of the commercial or industrial area, but it will be higher than that of the low residential area. So, in urban, first of all is where the urban area located, how much it is located, then the next part is that all these urban areas, how they are distributed or organized into high residential, low residential or industrial or commercial. So, we have to look into those aspects. So, if we can actually using the technology, say observational systems, like for example, you take into drone technology or you take into account the observational network or remote sensing techniques. You take into consideration those aspects. Okay. So, then you take the observations and then design the data, use the ground truthing obviously, and then design the data, land use land cover data in such a manner which will be of very high resolution. Okay. So, if you can produce such type of data for a particular city, so similarly you can replicate it for 2 cities, 5 cities, 100 cities, like that. It will be a huge amount of research and it does not need, actually it will need time, patience, and it will need your little bit of remote sensing GIS knowledge plus some efforts in ground truthing, etc. So, that will be like very big data set that you can generate. So, generating this data set will itself like big contribution, which we are not putting into efforts. That is first thing. Next thing is the observational network. In each and every city, if we can put proper observational network, be it Odisha or Bhubaneswar or Baleshwar or say Rourkela, does not matter. So, if we are really interested in research, we can put some observational network, and today for example, if we are putting an instrument which can help us in taking the measurement of the components of heat budget, for example, then tomorrow this one will help us in estimating anthropogenic heat in different areas. Like I said, different areas we divided. So, you take the observations in different areas, then you compute the anthropogenic heat in all these areas. That is itself a big research,
Yes.
right. So, these are the different components that we have to look into. I was saying about the anthropogenic heat calculation. So, that itself we can do, and that will help us in understanding how different urban areas are actually emitting the anthropogenic heat. Pollution is a different thing altogether. Pollution monitoring instruments will be there and we can take it from CPCB or anything, but at least these specific observational aspects we can do. Otherwise, I feel we should develop something related to remote sensing technique. So, basically what I was saying is, so if we can estimate anthropogenic heat for different areas over a particular city, say Bhubaneswar or Rourkela or Baleshwar or those urban hotspot regions where our different industrial areas or urban areas are located, then we can measure the anthropogenic heat in those regions or in a particular city, say Bhubaneswar. So, wherever these three different types of locations are there, that we can take through the measurements. And this is one way, although it is expensive, and we can persuade our government organizations, government sponsoring organizations, which can help us establishing such observational network, which can help us doing that. So, that is one way. It does not matter actually, irrespective of from where we are from, whether university or NIT or IIT. So, but another thing is we can do is like, I was just thinking maybe we can develop some remote sensing technique by using the satellite data. Can we actually estimate that? So, if we can devise some methodology to estimate like anthropogenic heat by using the available observational data or whatever data sets we have, basically, if we can do so, that will be also a great contribution to the urban research. So, these things in particularly, as I said very specifically, so those things will be very helpful, and next thing that what we can do is the broadly we should, whenever we are performing urban research, we should look into urban area like a total ecosystem. What I mean to say, what I mean to basically emphasize here is, we should not look into only the urban growth or how it is growing or how it will grow in future. Like obviously, we are using machine learning techniques and we do not need so much of sophisticated machine learning models to run and say what will happen in future. Just with reasonable computational resources we can do so, but that is fine. We can say this much percentage it will grow in future, or these areas will show potential for the growth or something depending upon the trend that we see. But that is not the point only. So, what is the point here is like we can associate with the existing things, like say for example one city, say we can record the events, say how many times the flash flood is happening for example. So, how many events this year happened, how many events last year happened, how many events tomorrow will happen, or the after the next year will happen, or the year after that. So, you can record the number of events and the locations where these happen. So, we can identify the hotspots regions where the flash flood is happening. Okay. So, spatially then temporally. So, both of the things we can record, and that will help if we collect the data enough. So, we can use again those reasonable machine learning things, and that can help us in predicting the future aspects.
Yeah, means I got your point. So, here the question is, like when you work with these urban centers, so we have a limitation of data. The reason may be that is called as data interoperability, because still there are a lot of projects going on, let's say Bhubaneswar, Cuttack. So, a lot of data is created, but it is not available or it is not digitized. Okay? A lot of research is going in different university. Still we do not put this data in form of spatial data infrastructure.
Agreed.
So there are multiple times we create same data. If you say when a problems come up, so what the policymaker think, so they just want to give some institute and they have to create their data. So multiple time you are creating. So what I think, like, the government of Odisha or different ministry puts a lot of money, okay, for creating the data or making some kind of systems. But still, the other way is we have expertise in different university and in national institutes. So we can rope them together or do certain collaborations.
Yes.
So we create a spatial data infrastructure host a site. Whoever is creating, whatever data it's creating, like from the government funds or the projects, so they can put there. But thing is, there should be some quality check. So meta information about uncertainties kind of thing. So where we talk about data interoperability, which is really not available because different agency cannot come together.
Yes.
But when you talk about the challenges in urban area, so there are transdisciplinary way which you look into. So there should be some remote sensor, some atmospheric science, modeler, computation, so engineers, lot of people have to come together.
Yes, that is where, sorry to interrupt, actually that is where the collaboration comes into picture and we must collaborate. As I mentioned, like if you have, in a particular state, if you have 3-4 cities or something like that, so state based database we can first create and then we can go to nation based. Like in a particular state we can take a pilot based, like say for example this time through monsoon mission, first the model was made and our data was made and then they gave projects for state wise, different state wise, like you said validation etc.
Yeah.
So we can do state wise first. If it is a urban thing, then we have to go to state wise. So we take one state and then so we can rope in the organizations in that particular state or nearby organizations from different disciplines, like we are consortium based, like we are doing now for NRFAR or something like that. So you rope in and then make a collaboration and make someone as a leading person and then everyone will have different responsibilities. So once everyone contributes differently, then you can have like all the data is together at one place and then you can create the database for that particular state, especially different cities. So if you are talking about Odisha, then in Odisha we can do that.
But what I think in a little bit different way, like the government of Odisha is giving a lot of research fund right now. So that's a very welcome steps, like they have a lot of center for excellency.
Right.
Let just think of how to collaborate all the universities or national institute in Odisha in some center for excellence,
Right.
where we can host a site, where means there should be link with all the government departments, whatever data is given, so it is digitized and that is available for open access, interoperability. So that then next step we can ask the urban local bodies.
Correct.
So what is your problem? So different cities have different set of problems.
Correct, I agree.
So then we can rope into these experts and bring in, and we can give some product or solutions to them.
True.
So that way, you have to invest less funds. You do not do multiple times for same thing.
Correct.
But thing is trust. So does our these policymakers or the bureaucrats, they trust the experts from state university, or like they have always a thinking that somebody who comes from even if from some IIT or something like that, so they have to lead, because this is also true.
See, I understand that what you are saying. Now the point here is, like, first of all, whatever sources we have to rely on that, first thing. Second thing is, like, when we are roping in some person, we should know what that person is capable
Yeah,
of
it's
doing.
expertise.
It is not about like whether the person is in a state organization or in a central organization within the city, within the state. So it should not be like that. It should be like who can be roped in to this particular aspect.
There should be a lot of brainstorming.
There should be yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There should be little bit of research first to know who is who and who is doing what. So accordingly, we can rope in people, and that will actually help in establishing a consortium kind of thing, and then the government can fund the consortium to doing all this.
You see, whenever government is funding, so like higher education department, so they see, they give it to the university. So they identify the research problem. It will be better if government gives the problem, what their different departments or like what are the things they are going to face, so that they give these funds and the problems should be defined by them. Then other part they have to look into more collaborative way, because most of the problems require multidisciplinary approach. A
Correct.
single individual cannot do, or single university cannot do.
Exactly.
So if you rope all this, means you have a problem, these are the institute which can collaborate. So a lot of brainstormings, looking into the expertise, and lot of while you are developing the proposals, so they can look into the output kind of things. So that is why whatever fund you are putting, so that is translated in developing the scientific contributions, one part, so that the value or quality of the ranking in NIRF or NAC will improve. Point one. Second point is we will be producing some products in form of solution. Okay. Third thing will be, so like we will be producing more societal product, because government works with the society. Fourth part is, so that can be the part of policy making if you are looking for 2036.
See, the point here is, it's not about NIRF ranking. So the ranking things
No, I am just talking all are correlated.
In a different thing,
No, I am talking in if higher education is giving,
yes, I
their
agree.
priority is
I
mostly
agree,
value which are
I
added.
agree. But the point here is like that goes in one way, but another way is we should not, whenever government wants solution, need not to look into that ranking part. The higher education organization eventually, whenever performing good, will have better ranking.
No, I am not talking about they will look into the ranks. I am talking if these funds comes to the university and the amount of research they do, so that will add values to research component.
Yes.
That I am saying. I am not. They will not look into the university's ranking.
That I agree. So here, what is important is a collaboration, and as I mentioned earlier, urban should be looked into as a whole ecosystem, because you have 40% population of your state living in an urban area, and then if you look into the quality of life, in any case you cannot avoid the traffic congestion, you cannot avoid more people migrating into the city, you cannot avoid many urban growth or development. You don't have control on each and everything. So some of the things you can decide, but some other things are automatic, people driven. So in that sense, it can be looked into a ecosystem in terms of like infrastructural development and its impact on the weather and environment, or the climate or environment, and then also practical impacts, practical issues like say health problem, or say like I said, like malaria or dengue or say heat stroke. So those type of issues will arise,
will be increasing.
So those things like we need to also look into to avoid those aspects, or respiratory problems. Even some research also says that those kind of air pollution can also encourage cancer as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So therefore, if we look into have a quality life means you should have a healthy life also. Health is, of course, we have good health infrastructure in cities, but that does not guarantee that you will have a healthy life.
Yeah.
Okay, so to have a healthy life, you can say you can join the gym to maintain the health. That is fine, but everyone may not have enough money to spend to go to the gym. But say you can go for walking. But whenever you are going for walking, for example, or you can go for jogging, or you can have some light exercises, including yoga, for example. But whenever that person is going to the park, is the air that person is breathing is fresh? That question we have to look
Address.
into.
Yeah.
The water the person is drinking, is it actually clean? That much clean? Like say for example in advanced cities, the tap water can be is a drink worthy, but here we cannot guarantee. So those things are actually there. So those things we have to look into, and unless otherwise we are able to provide actually clean air. You can say clean air is not a right, but how can you say that right to life is not a right? Right to life is a right, but whenever you are disrupting that some way or other because of certain steps that we are taking to develop a city or something like that, so in that case that is also impacting our the right to life. So the air should be fresh, air
Yeah.
should be clean. So it should not impact on our health. So if it does not impact on our health, then we can have a healthy life. That means there will be quality life, that will be ensure the quality life. Similarly, there should not be, even if there is heavy rainfall, we should have a good drainage system, so that we are not able to the rainfall that is coming, that should be drained out quickly, so that it does not aggregate and generate flash flood, and then it congests the traffic, or you can say disrupts the daily life, or otherwise it aggregates on a certain area to create dengue or malaria. So those type of things should not be there.
Yeah, if I just summarize the thing, so we are coming to the end of our discussion. Data is the new oil, okay,
Obviously.
and we have to create it.
Correct.
Either university or the government has to create it. Then only these models, machine learning will work.
They will work.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is my final question. So what are the carriers from the research perspective in these fields? What tools and techniques the researchers has to learn? So if you just think of next 20 years, I am not talking right now, next 20 years, so what are the new things which will be added in studying urban bodies or something like that?
Okay. So first thing, as I said, creation of a data is one of the skills that you have to generate, you have to develop. How to create the data, proper data, and for that you need to learn the tools, techniques, like say for example remote sensing techniques, or the programming skills. Say in today's world Python is very popular.
Yeah.
So next 10-20 years I would say Python will be quite demanding. So Python, learning Python,
when we talk about geospatial technology, there is something coming up, Google Earth Engine.
Yes. So
cloud computing
correct.
platform.
So we have to devise we have to learn actually the geospatial technology in combined with Python, or those type of things we have to learn. That means then you have to go for the machine learning, and those are not data driven things. Then we have to adopt the physics driven machine learning also, so that physical processes can be incorporated, or otherwise what we can do is we can make a hybrid modeling system. So where both machine learning, deep learning, or say numerical modeling.
So another
those
two
things
technology
can be,
like drone and leader.
yes,
These are coming up.
I am just talking about software part.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you go to the hardware part. So if you look into the hardware part, you need to, as you said, the drone technology will be a quite very added advantage, like operating the drone and how to use the drone technology for the urban research. That will be like a great thing. Like I learned about digital twins,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example.
We discussed because it requires a lot of investment.
Exactly. So the drone technology can help us creating a digital twin, for example.
So when you talk about digital twin, there will be a lot of interfaces. So it's not about just simulating things.
Correct.
You have it will be more organic.
Correct.
So physics, then biologists would be there. So how they are compelling. I mean, so how they are interacting. So a lot of things are there. It is evolving.
Yeah. So this is a very high computational resources are required for digital twin framework to work properly. So which normally universities or institutes don't have that much at present, except few research organizations in our country, dedicated research organizations. So which were again recently developed. Not like it is not available previously, recently developed, and I am not sure also whether those will work for this purpose. But those kind of infrastructure, if developed in academic organization, along with the engineering technology, that is electronics and drone technology especially, and surveying, different surveying mechanism, etc. Camera also, camera technology, those type of things. So they will be helping us in surveying the things and putting accurate information in the modeling framework.
Yes.
So be it like machine learning, or be it like a any kind of simulation framework, or be it like a numerical model framework. So those type of information, that means the engineering, technology, science, and geospatial aspects. These are the tools and techniques one must learn these days. Accordingly, one can decide the career. And once you learn the these type of techniques or technology, that will definitely help you build a career. And of course, as you said, data is a oil these days in one way.
Yeah.
But though it cannot replace the oil, but data is also an oil kind of thing. But career prospects, if I say geospatial technology, along with geospatial technology, machine learning, deep learning, and physics driven machine learning,
modeling,
or hybrid modeling, say for example,
a lot of
computations,
developers,
drone technology. So those are the aspects will be actually coming dominating in future. So that will help to make a career. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Panda. So having a so exciting discussion. So just for the new coming researchers. So when you just think of doing your research in urban area, so keep in the mind what Professor Panda said. So you should learn remote sensing, GIS, Google Earth Engine, Python, then R. So a lot of softwares or skills you have to learn, a lot of technology which is coming up. Second thing is, so if you are starting a research, so before defining your objective, try to do some kind of bibliometric analysis, some scoping review, where you can really fit what is exactly I will be fitting after 5 or 10 years when I finish my PhD. Then you can have systematic literature review. So by learning this, you can understand, so what are the technology which are being used, so what are the methodology, so you will have a rigor on that. So thank you very much for listening.
Before we stop here, I want to add here that whatever works we are doing, we should connect with the social problems.
Sure.
Like health issues, for instance, or risk assessment kind of things, so that it will help us making a total or a story in totality, basically.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for watching this. So maybe in future we will be coming of more engaged discussions with different issues with different experts in different time.